name is Ileana Betancourt. I'm welcoming you to the final hour of Distance Learning Day. This is a 5-hour nonstop presentation live stream featuring teachers around the country who are sharing innovative ideas, tips, resources, all sorts of tools to help educators with online teaching. We're excited to be here and welcome to those of you who are just joining us. So in this portion of the presentation, we have a whole thread of different topics with a focus on different apps, app smashing, tips and tricks for collaboration, different tactics for dealing with ups and downs of distance learning. And then at the very end, we're also going to have some special presentation by Jennie Tookoian. It's not listed here. That'll talk a little bit about what's coming for Edulastic and other tips and tricks for using it. So let's get started. Our first presenter is a creative and passionate teacher named Mindy Newell, and she uses Edulastic with her 6th grade ELA students. She teaches in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. And Mindy, I want to welcome you on.
Thank you. Okay, well, I just want to give everyone, tell yourself to give yourself a pat on the back because we survived COVID, distant learning at home. So I can't believe the breakout rooms were really cool, and I met someone from Pakistan and India and Louisiana. So thank you for hosting this. This is awesome. The most important thing for me as a teacher is finding people like me to, finding your people to get you through this. So that's such an awesome experience today. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my presentation here. And here are my handles, Twitter and Instagram. And I know that I put my slides on the on Twitter, but here is a tiny URL also. So let me present this real fast. Real fast, a little bit about me. I have a very unique situation where I taught 2nd grade for 22 years. I needed a little change because I wanted to do some more critical thinking and higher level skills. So now I teach 6th grade for 3 years. And then at night, I'm a major ed advisor, so I do a lot of things with high school students. So what I started today was saying that find your people. I don't know if you're familiar with the Ron Clark Academy, but I found some people that have really got me inspired for education, which also inspired me to reach out to Edulastic. So today, hook up with those people that you're meeting through this situation. My situation is I had paper packets for March, and I had 1 day to prepare, and then our school rolled out a Chromebook loaner program. And then I only had 110 kids that could actually be online, and the other 10 I had to send packets to. So I had to do both. So I quickly realized maintaining that rigorous pace was unrealistic. And like all the presenters have said today, that here I was thinking that my content was so important, but it wasn't. So I had to realize that. So I wanted to make this relatable and enjoyable for my students. So here are some apps. Oh, well, but first, what I was going to show you really fast is that this is a lesson plan that I came up with, that I borrowed from another teacher. We use Schoology, and you can see right there, I don't know if you can see your screen that's as close as I can, but a parent wanted to thank me, and she was saying that this was helpful to have all the links in one place, and I've seen a lot of other speakers do this. But again, I was only one subject, so I had to stop putting something every day. So I decided to use Flipgrid and Membean. Flipgrid is free. It's for any subject, any grade level. And I did it every Wednesday for 7 weeks. And I learned probably more about my students using Flipgrid than I had learned all year. So that's a quick, definitely check out Flipgrid, and I'll show this to you in a second. Membean is costly, so I know with budget cuts, you might not want to investigate this, but it builds vocabulary, and it has all the SAT words, ACT words. And I had a student who came from Puerto Rico who spoke no English, and she learned English through Membean. Turn it. Okay, there. So just like almost every speaker said, that, you know, kids can't learn if you can't get the emotions first. So the connections and relationships are so important. So through Flipgrid, guess what? I saw Dad get a haircut. I saw goats and horses and things that I never knew my students had. They've shared with me, but this is a tool that you can use in math and science. It has a dry erase board for math teachers. They could actually do the problem and record them explaining it, and you don't have to show the whole community the video. You can grade it without the other students seeing it. So you can create like 10-minute videos, 5-minute videos, and here on the left side are my assignments, and you can moderate. If you do use Flipgrid, please moderate your videos, because that will help you decide which ones you've already graded. Because if they're not moderated, you might have 115 videos in an hour, and you're not going to be able to tell which ones you already used. So at the top of my screen, you can see that just 11 topics had 353 hours of shared learning with my students, that they were actually teaching each other more than probably I was teaching them. Plus the feedback you can give to them is amazing. On the right hand side, you can see you can give them a rubric, and also you can give them feedback on their video. I did a lot of social emotional learning while adding in some skills. I'm supposed to teach complex sentences. Well, guess what? I did, but in a fun way, and listening, speaking standards. I also was supposed to have the students learn how to give evidence, text-based evidence. So instead of writing 5-paragraph essays that I had to grade, I decided to have them speak it to me, which made it pretty fun. Okay, so I'm gonna exit out of here and show you, because I can talk about it all I want, but for you to see it probably will make it better for you. All right, so here is Flipgrid, and I'll go into a topic here. I'm not gonna show you the whole video, but I want everyone to see this. This is a student who was very quiet, and I didn't realize that art meant the world to him, and a little award we gave him. Look how he has this.
I won the art award this year, and I like to share that. So I have a whole table set up with some of my art that I've drew, I should say, and start out with the sign.
So he goes on and shows his artwork, but do you see this little certificate right here? That's something we do for PBIS that we thought, oh, they're just gonna throw that away. He has it framed. I'd have never known that if I didn't use Flipgrid. I'm gonna show you something else. Back, screen. The students had to pick a song that they would add to their soundtrack for their life. And let me show you this real fast.
So my song is I Got You, and that is something special to me because I don't have I don't have a huge group of friends that I'm always talking to. Like,
now, I did ask the students if I could share these, so I just want to make sure you know that I even got parent permission. Okay, real fast. Here's another one real fast. I used a lot of Khan Academy, and then you can then put your own videos, and then they can explain through.
The author's attitude toward how to live life is truthfully. He says in verse 4, line 1, don't be afraid to let them show your true colors, which means you shouldn't hide who you are. Another example is.
So you see how she was able to give me the line and the verse and those things like that. So, oh gosh, this is so hard to go so quick and know what to say. So Flipgrid, I think that if you have the chance, definitely check it out. Do I have like 1 or 2 minutes? Okay.
Yes. Yes,
All right. All right, real fast, Membean. Some of you might go, I don't want to pay for this, but I want you to know that I saw some other speakers say that I do a lot because of data. So here are some results real fast. I had 41 students on level, but look how many I had below. Oops. Come on. So this is the air test results from my students, and one set of students did not have Membean and one set did. On the right-hand side, you can see that the students with Membean, look how they scored higher in the vocabulary in the year before. So I'm not saying that's the only thing that helped, but it is definitely something that helps me, my students, is they also have a huge report system that I show parents and the students, and they can manage their time. It's a session where they practice all these words. It tells you accuracy, how many minutes. And I taught them how to train effectively and efficiently. And this is kind of what it looks like. Yes, it's not a gaming system, but they follow paragraph here. There is video. I didn't show you the whole screenshot, but it has 7 different ways to learn a word that it stays in your brain. So, goodness. I definitely encourage you to try something out, but Membean with the costly, but please, please check out Flipgrid, because you will not believe what you're going to learn from your students just through a simple video.
Awesome.
So,
thanks, Mindy.
Yeah,
Great
sorry.
presentation. So I know there were some great comments that went through on the chat. We'll get to all the questions during
Okay.
Q&A later. Feel free to browse them right now, Mindy. And I will go ahead and introduce our next presenter.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mindy. Wait, is it sharing? Here we go. So for our next presenter is presenting App Smashing to create a virtual math lesson. Tina Kelly is a math department head and 5th grade teacher in Natick, Massachusetts. Her math department embraced Edulastic this year, and she has a lot of insights and tips to share.
Hey. Hi, I'm Tina Kelly. So I'm from Natick, Massachusetts. I currently teach 5th grade, but I'm really 7th grade, 8th grade math teacher. That's the majority of my experience, and I'm middle school math department head. All right, so let me talk a little bit about what my process is. I'm going to talk about how I set up the lesson and kind of what I ran into. So we basically, just so you know, on Thursday afternoon in March, they canceled after school help, and then we were out. So there was no warning, there was no nothing. Nobody knew that we weren't going to be out. Initially, when they were talking about being out, they were talking about being out for 3 weeks. So teachers left with whatever they had without knowing they weren't going to come back. So there wasn't any opportunity for us to go back into the building and get stuff. So whatever you had at home is what you had to teach. Does that make sense? Okay. So being a math department head had some unique challenges, because not only did I have to prepare my class, I also had to think about how do I help get my department ready to teach virtually. Okay. Our first way they set us up is they said, for the first 3 weeks, we're just going to do enrichment. So when I met with my department, I said, let's take the next 3 weeks and play with different apps and different things, so that if we do have to do this long term, we're in a really good place to teach long term. So the components I came up with teaching my virtual math class was, I still wanted to do the key components of my lesson. Okay. We knew that lesson delivery was going to happen. I wanted students to transition and feel the same as what they felt in class. Okay. What I had some challenges with was students were using whatever devices they had at home. So it could be an iPad, it could be a MacBook, it could be a Chromebook, and they may not or may be touchscreen. So that was a challenge. The district did provide Chromebooks for any student that wanted them. So I did at least have all my students on devices, but they were all varying devices. So I wanted to have my key components of my lesson. So I wanted to be able to have some kind of warm up. I wanted to be able to do some direct instruction, because we left in the middle of my fractions unit. So I still had to do subtracting fractions, multiplying fractions, and dividing fractions, which if you've ever taught math is a beast, okay? Never mind doing it virtually. I wanted to be able to give students an opportunity to do independent practice, to get feedback, to have some kind of exit ticket and some home ability to do some practice at home. I needed the ability to actually like model how to solve the problems. I wanted students to be able to do it with me or to move at their own pace as well. And I also needed a way to track and to have some kind of accountability. So my first kind of step with this is I was thinking, oh my gosh, I need a virtual whiteboard. So what is my virtual whiteboard going to look like? I had an iPad at home. Okay. It was a school iPad. I've had it for 4 years. I want to say it's got to be like 9 years old. Okay. So I was originally like, oh, great. I can use Jamboard. I can integrate the Jamboard with the computer. It'll be awesome. iPad does not take any new apps. It's that old. Okay. So I was like, okay, I can still use Jamboard or I can use app. I've used them before. I'll just write on them, which is great. I can project it. I can write on it. Know that I'm using Google Meet. We don't use Zoom. Okay. I have a MacBook with a little tiny baby keypad. Okay. And if you've ever tried to use a stylus and write on that, it is not fun. Okay. And it wasn't sustainable long term. Okay. So I was like, and I even tried having like 2 computers and using the Jamboard, and it just got kind of icky. So I was like, okay, I've got an iPad. There's got to be a way to do this. Okay. So I did. I played around with it and I came up with a couple different solutions. So what's kind of cool is if you have an iPad and you plug it into the computer, you can use QuickTime, and you can click on QuickTime and you can actually run the iPad screen share by using creating a new movie recording and choosing your iPad. Oh, of course it's going to act funny. Choosing your iPad as the camera. All right. Okay, so now, oh, there you go. So now I can actually present on my iPad using QuickTime, and I can actually write on it, and the students can see what I'm writing, which was kind of neat, right? Now, loving it, it's great, okay, but it's finicky, okay? So like I literally had to just unplug the cord and plug it back in. Like it's finicky about what cord you're using. It's finicky about everything, okay? So I was like, all right, this is great. And I can teach my teachers how to use this. And I can also, I'm using it as a whiteboard, but I could easily go into the camera mode and I could use it as a document camera. So right now it's got a thing on it, but I could actually literally take it out. And a lot of my teachers are doing that and use it as a document camera. So that's kind of cool as well. Oh, did I lose it here? All right, so let me answer that up for a second. Okay. So that's kind of cool, but again, it's kind of finicky, right? So I was like, okay, I need something that's a little bit better than this that I don't have to really worry about. So I did some research and I found this app that's called XMirage. And it's this little app here. And what it lets you do is it lets you AirPlay your iPad like you would like an Apple TV. And then all you have to do is click AirPlay and I can do the same thing. Okay. And then I can easily toggle back and forth. And if I lose it, I just re-AirPlay and it's much, much quicker. And I don't have to worry about the plug or plugging in or anything like that. So that's how I kind of came up with my virtual whiteboard. And then I kind of integrated it into my lesson. So I'm going to talk about that kind of next. So when I started my lesson creation, I first started by making Google Slides. And in my Google Slides, I was doing Equatio, which is the math. So I was making Google Slides and I was using Equatio to make all the different equations. And I was projecting this. But then again, I was finding like, this isn't working super great because I need to be able to write on it in the moment. So I can't just project it and have the kids do it. I need to be able to model problems as we're going through. So then what I was doing is I was inputting my slides into explain everything. And then I was using those and writing on them, which was working really well. And then I was like, okay, now I need something because I need to be able to see how the students are doing. So I was using, my other app I was using was Socrative, which was great, except for I was having my iPad, my computer, Socrative open, and there was just so much going on. And because I was clicking the slides, they had to wait for me to click the slides. So like if a student wanted to go to the next slide, they had to wait for me to do it. So I was like, I need something else that not only allows me to get feedback from the students, but also allows me to let them either move with me or move ahead of me depending on what we're doing. So what I played around with was the Pear Deck add-on. So I'm going to show you how that works, which is kind of cool. So Pear Deck's an add-on that's pretty easy. During the COVID, they were offering like a free until the end of the school year thing. And I'd used it before a little bit, but not a ton, because I teach 5th grade and we're not one-to-one. So it wasn't something I used all the time. So basically for Pear Deck, I would go in and you just add a question to a slide. So you can see it on the bottom of my slide where it says students write your responses. So at the beginning of the lesson, I give them a code or I give them a link and they go in and they solve these problems and then they put their answers in and I can see their answers and I can see that they're participating, which worked out really, really well. And it also at the end will give me a report and that report will show me how many students were participating, if they were participating, if they understood the material. I can give instant feedback because I can read the feed, but I can also go back and look at it afterwards. So that was pretty cool. The other piece that I kind of needed was I needed something for them to do for independent work. So the way our district works is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have Google Meets and 30-minute classes. And then after those 30-minute classes, on those off days, on Tuesdays and Thursdays and over the weekend, we expect them to do 20 or 30 minutes of math work. And then we do office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays to support them. So I needed a way to push out work to them. Now, I had always used Edulastic, but primarily we had used it for a formative assessment app and or like for benchmarks or assessments, but not as a regular ongoing basis for homework. So we're keeping the Edulastic and using it for multiple things, but just using Google Forms. What I realized is Google Forms just wasn't what I needed. So we ended up just doing all the homework on Edulastic. And so what was cool about that is I can assign the homework and then I can look at their results and I know, am I okay to move on? Is there a trend or do I need to go back? I can also, reach out to any of those kids who haven't done it or haven't started it. So using those things it gives them instant feedback. They know how they did right away. So that's worked really well for me as well. So I kind of threw a lot of stuff out here at you. So I will tell you between those apps, it's been awesome. And learning how to broadcast the iPad through the MacBook has been definitely a changer for myself and for my department. And I know later on Karen Hernandez is going to talk about how she did it with Android devices. So that's, I think, would be pretty interesting because I didn't really explore that as much, but I think that'd be something awesome to learn about as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Tina. Really great to see the applications of all those apps together. Thank you. Okay, so our next presenter, we have a sneak preview right here. It's Karen Ford. She's an ELA teacher in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, and she emphasizes collaboration with her ELA team and students. Thanks, Karen.
Hi, so it was great. So Tina from Natick, I had a similar situation to you. We left on a Tuesday. We were there was a big Biogen conference that sort of infected some people, and then we had somebody who went to the conference and had kids in every school. So we found out, I left on Tuesday. I didn't even have my plug for my MacBook, and left. And my daughter, who's in high school in the same district, was like, "Mom, it says on Snapchat that we're not going to be in school." I'm like, "You should never believe what you see on Snapchat." Turns out we haven't been in school since. So let me I just need to. There we go. There's so many pop-ups with this, and I feel like I'm talking at me and a bunch of people. So we were tasked with, the way our district kind of did it was up until April 6th, we did not have mandatory classes for students. I think that was kind of in accordance with the Department of Education. So at the beginning, we had to sort of punt, right? Like, so the first week we didn't work, but then we had like a good 3 weeks of it, we called it engagement and enrichment. And so what we were trying to do was just going to be like the first point of contact for these families, and we didn't know what was going on. So it looked like this for us. Hopefully this is coming up, or maybe not. So what we did, and because it wasn't mandatory, we put together sort of a, you can see like week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. We didn't know what was going to be happening. So we stuck with sort of the major standards for English. I'm a 7th grade ELA teacher, by the way, sorry. So we did a lot of posting to Google Classroom, and we did, reading, and we had some short stories and whatnot, and we gave them links for this, and a lot of like Newsella, we call it Newsella, it's probably Newsela, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. We did some common lit, some sort of applications that they could engage with, that we could see that the students were engaging and who was engaging in what, because we just didn't, like I said, we were building the ship as we were sailing. And then we had some informational videos, and then because we were supposed to be reading, we were supposed to start the Wednesday Wars, which we eventually did, but it's about a 7th grade boy in Long Island in the 1960s. So we did some fun sort of little dance styles in the 1960s. So we had the kids sort of follow along, and we updated this every week. So there was that. Now I'm going to go back, and it says click to exit. Oh, it's loading. Sorry, it takes a long time when there's a lot of stuff going on. Sorry. But then on April 6th, the classes became mandatory. And so we were supposed to be introducing like these new standards-based materials. The big thing that was a huge difference for us was we have 3 teams. We have 330 or so kids in the 7th grade, and we have 3 teams, and each of the teachers is totally different. There's a 30-year-old woman. I'm much or slightly older than her, and then there's a male teacher, and while we all sort of read the same books and teach the same standards, we do our lessons in very, very different ways. And we were told that we were supposed to be delivering the same lessons. So this was like, all right, okay, so we had to come together and collaborate. And I think if there's anything that this has taught me, if there's a silver lining or anything, collaboration is amazing. And so we had to modify so that every single child could access this curriculum. So I want to go into sort of what we ended up with. My stuff is available. We did a lot with Pear Deck, so I was glad to see Tina did that. I know there are a couple questions about, wait a minute, isn't this like more for younger kids? Absolutely not. It's actually great in terms of being able to track the student work and understand what they're doing. And also they've just added a new feature that you can get back to them. It used to be that you could star their work and that would be their feedback, and you would have to sort of give feedback to them in other ways. But now you can actually give feedback within the app. And so I can show you actually. So this is a shout out to Danielle. She created this one. So the kids sign in. I'm not going to open up a Pear Deck slide for you, but what happens is the kids sign in, and this is kind of how we do it. So I'm going to kind of move down a little bit further. But one of the things that happens in the Wednesday Wars, and of course this would be something that we would be talking about in school, one of the things that happens in the Wednesday Wars is the assassination of Martin Luther King. And we're reading that right now, which of course is very timely. And it's something that, this is one of the things that we mourn, not being able to see our kids in person. So this is kind of how we got our kids talking about it a little bit. So there's like, we gave them this story about like what happens on the flip side. Like there's how good and bad are often intertwined. And we gave them some story examples. And then we gave them, you can actually, this is Walter Cronkite talking about Martin Luther King being assassinated. And then you can show them, we had them say, like, this is what happened in the book here. And what do you think? Is there a flip side to what could happen? And you can either, as a teacher, you can show them, the other students' anonymous work. So if you want to get the discussion going, which God knows we all do, that's a great thing. But specifically this morning, this was like literally this morning, we didn't. We let them write in it anonymously and then responded to each kid as soon as we got off. And then, that gives us an idea of if there are students who need help, processing, or if, they just don't want to talk about it, it's totally fine. The other thing that really, really helped us was like getting this, we had to do a weekly schedule. And like we have, I'm sure that you guys have encountered this, is the executive functioning piece just goes by the wayside when you're at home. And so we after much ado, and it was really, really, really much ado, we, kind of put together this weekly learning schedule. And we gave like an overview of the week with like all the links and everything. And then we broke it down like minute by minute for, like which class needs what time, because we were supposed to be sticking to 20 to 25 minutes per time. And then, there were the other big thing that we really worked together was with the special educators, the modifications. So in this template for weekly schedule, I would have, there was one week I had a version A and a version B and the other version. So for all the kids who sort of needed that help and it's more like the nuts and bolts that we had the trouble with. But for me, I just, the collaboration and being able to meet with people, we have like a constant Zoom chat, a Google chat. We have Zoom meetings scheduled. We're on shared docs. We have all of this stuff. And then there was the other thing of, when do we turn off? I think that was a huge problem for all of us. Like, when do we turn off? When are we supposed to not be teachers anymore and actually like attend to our kids? We have, the male teacher has a young kid, and he's like, and his wife works as well. He's like, there's only so much I can do. And that's exactly right. And all the rest of us have all of these, interferences. But if a kid emails us, we want to make sure we're responding, because we're the first responders for these kids. So just being able to pull together and just be understanding of who is doing what. And I really just feel like, some of the stuff was stated outright, but we all just sort of played to each other's strengths. And I guess that was, the big takeaway from this, is just the importance of collaboration, with my team, but also specifically with, my PLC has been wonderful. And I want to just to give a huge shout out to Edulastic and everybody who organized this, and, any questions or whatever, happy to answer.
Thank you, Karen. That was so great. And I want to reiterate what you just said. I think that's so true and so important to bring up, that this is, you guys have been able to accomplish so much because of collaboration and communication and teamwork. So it's really awesome. So it looks like Ileana just started sharing her screen again, which is perfect. I'm going to introduce our awesome next panelist. Karen, I hope you're ready. I'm going to introduce you right now. So Karen Hernandez is a math teacher and department chair in Indio, California. She recently transitioned to standards-based grading and has talked to us pretty extensively about this and about how she uses Edulastic for standards-based grading. And she's had a ton of success with it. Today, she's going to be talking about dealing with the ups and downs of distance learning. She's going to be giving some nice tips and some great insights, so I hope you'll stick around. And Karen, go ahead and take it away.
Hey everyone, and good afternoon. Can you guys hear me and see me, first of all, because I can't see myself?
Yeah, you all good. We can see you and hear you.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so
Well,
that
feel free
we
to take
can
over.
start. So hi, everyone. My name's Karen Hernandez. I'm a high school math teacher. I'm also a Desmos Fellow. I had the opportunity this past summer for Cohort 4. I teach at Shadow Hills High School. If you've ever heard of Coachella Fest, or if you've ever heard of Stagecoach, that's the city that my high school is at. So go Knights. You can find me on Twitter at Karen Rabidan, or if you have an Instagram account, you can also find me there at Math is Functional. Or if you'd like to reach me, you can reach me through email. This is my personal email that I use for the conferences that I present or any PD that I do for teachers, colleagues, or anything. So feel free to reach me at that. A couple of things about me and my background. I've been in education for 8 years now. My first 2 years were at the middle school level, and the past 6 years have been at the high school level. So currently here at Shadow Hills High School, I teach integrated math 1 to freshmen, integrated math 2 to sophomores, and an accelerated honors course for freshmen. Also, I come from a district that is 1-to-1, so that was kind of beneficial when this whole pandemic was taking place and not knowing if we were going to have the school closures or not. But it definitely gave us an opportunity to move forward with it. So let's get started. And I'm not gonna lie, I am a little nervous. So I'm gonna talk about the ups and downs, what I used, and how I made it work. So 3 apps were essential for me. We have ScreenStream, Metamoji, and My Video. Now earlier you heard from Tina Kelly, and she talked about how she used the iOS system, the iPad and Mac, and how to do the mirroring. So I'll be talking about Androids. Our 1-to-1 is Chromebook to all students, and our Samsung tablets for teachers. So I first started with ScreenStream, and what this does for us, I recorded a little video for us so we can see. So through ScreenStream, it's a free app, first of all. All the apps that I'm talking about are free, and you can download them. So what it does is basically, it downloads onto your app. It's right here. And it allows you to mirror your tablet onto your computer screen through an IP address. That simple. So that's one of the things that was very important for me. Now, I already had experience with this because I also have 3 LFDs in my classroom. And so this was essential to moving around in the classroom so I didn't have to be restricted to a desk. So this was something that was easy to transition over onto working from home as an educator. The next app I use, it's called Metamoji. Now, I don't know if this app can be used on an iPad. I haven't tried that, but if not, I'm pretty sure that it does work. And if it doesn't, I'm pretty sure there's other apps that allow you to do the same thing. So with Metamoji, I used it all year. It's basically like a spiral notebook in your tablet. You can highlight, you can write, you can crop, you can cut and paste, you can take pictures, you can add pictures, you can change about anything on here. And the best thing about this app was that I can convert all of my notes into a PDF file, upload it onto Google Drive, and voila, that was it. So for students who were absent, all I had to do is share it on Google Drive, post it on Google Classroom, and that kind of helped disappear the problem of, well, I was absent, do you have the notes? Done, it's already on Google Classroom. So this for me was crucial, finding an app that allowed me to convert all of my notes into a PDF for students to have when they need them, or even just to follow along. Now, the next app I used was is called My Video Recorder. So this one, it took me some time to find it. It's also, again, free. All of the ones I'm talking about are free. So this specific app allows me to record my screen. So the videos that you are currently seeing on here are recorded through this app. And it allows you to have about 3 hours. But once you create your videos, you can upload them to Google Drive, so you can place them onto Google Classroom. And then once you're done, you can just delete the video and create more space for more videos that you want to create. And it could go from landscape to portrait mode. It gives you all the details. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. So from here, a tablet and a laptop was essential while I was doing all of this and putting it together. So how did it all come together? I needed a class website. I used Desmos, I used Google Classroom, and I used Zoom. So for the class website, what I did was I went into teacher mode and I started creating all of the videos. So I created the videos, I placed them on my class website, and this is where students were able to find all of their work. It was, think of it as an all-in-one concept. It was easy to follow. You had watch and take notes. You had practice problems, then you had your formative assessment, and then you had your self-reflection. The self-reflection allowed me to focus on students who needed a little bit more help so that I can target specifically my teaching when I was doing the Zoom sessions. Now, all of these videos are linked into the presentation itself, so you guys can have access to it as well. So moving on, with Desmos, the feature that I loved the most was one that was released during this pandemic, which was being able to give feedback to students. That was amazing. So if you've tried it, great. If you haven't, I encourage you to go try that feature because it's perfect. You're able to talk to your students and give them feedback as to how to move forward. I use Zoom for my Zoom sessions, and then in Google Classroom, I made sure to upload everything and anything that was essential for them in order to be able to communicate and track with me. So moving on, my ups and downs. So the positives, 3 great positives, self-paced. When you think about your students and the pace that we go in the classroom, although we try not to really use a general rule where everyone learns at the same pace. We have students who do take a little longer and need a little bit more time to process the information. And sometimes that's not necessarily the case in the classroom. So for students to be able to watch the videos that were created, pause, rewind, fast forward, and jot down notes, figure out their point of confusion, that was crucial. So that to me was a great positive. And it was also something that the students gave feedback on. We love that we can do this and not have to feel the stress of the classroom and trying to be at everyone's level. The positive was the all-in-one concept. I really hadn't used the class website that much. And then once this whole situation happened, I placed everything on there. I kind of started thinking more of the flipped learning effect where they do the learning online through taking the notes and practice. And then when they come together through the Zoom sessions and the breakout rooms, I was truly able to target the instructions. Students were able to tell me, Ms. Hernandez, my point of confusion is in this video for this lesson. How did you do that? I need more help. And I was able to target my teaching, being able for students to take ownership, for students to be self-advocates and proactive about their learning because they didn't have all the pressures of the classroom. It really helped me drive home how to help my students succeed. Now, with the ups, there was also some challenges. And the 3 biggest challenges that I've discussed with my colleagues and that I've heard from other educators as well, the number 1 was student motivation. How do you keep your students engaged when you don't have the environment that you have in the classroom? So that was one of the challenges through this transition, and anything and everything helps. So just collaborating with educators and seeing what's out there is definitely something we can work on. The second one that really was hard for me was measuring growth via summative assessment. So with students doing all the work at home, how do you truly assess if the students have mastered the material? And so we're used to the paper pencil or maybe a Google form, but how do you truly know that it's individual to that student, that that student has showed you mastery? So it kind of triggered something in me and really looking at differentiating in their summative assessments, giving them something where they build a portfolio or they build a project or they do something that is individually centered around them and their learning so we can measure the growth. So these were all ideas that happened after the fact, but definitely something that I thought and saw as a challenge. And the biggest one of all, the social emotional connection. It's hard to think that we want to replicate that connection that we have with students in the classroom and then bringing it over to online, that's just not possible. So that was a big challenge because a lot of our students, when we think about them, it's really that social emotional connection that you have between student to student, student to teacher. So that's definitely been a challenge, and I'm definitely wanting to learn and grow from that. And last but not least, here we go. So what I wish I remembered. I wish I integrated Edulastic at the beginning of my lesson planning instead of trying to fit it around my lessons and trying to modify it. When I thought of all the features, the dashboard, tracking students' work, resetting problems and reassigning it to them and being able to track their growth, if I would have thought of that at the beginning of my lesson planning days, it would have been so much easier through this transition. So it became a little harder. My recommendation, as you're planning for this fall, try to implement already Edulastic around your lesson planning. How would it look like? What is your purpose for using it? Is it a review? Is it a prior knowledge check before you launch the concept? What is your purpose? And integrate it at the beginning. And then last but not least, it's a learning and adjustment process for all of us. We're not perfect, and it was very hard for me trying to be perfect, give the perfect lesson to my students. And I had to constantly reflect and check myself and say, hey, you're not an expert. This is new. Everyone's on the same boat with you. So you're growing and learning, and the students are too. This is a different environment for them, something they're not used to. So just keeping that in mind as we go through this during the summer, as we prepare for the fall, I think is going to be great as we move forward. And that's all I have. I don't know if I went too fast. I don't know if I went too slow, but
that was perfect, Karen. Yeah, that was so great. Thank you for that. And now we are going to move on to Jennie. So Jennie is a customer success manager here at Edulastic. She is an expert in all things Edulastic and has some really exciting things to share for what's coming down the pipeline as far as Edulastic goes. We have a really big update coming, and I personally am very excited about it. I know Jennie's excited about it. So go ahead and take it away, Jennie.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I have the enviable position of being the last speaker for a 5-hour event. So I promise I'll try to make this as exciting and move it along quickly. But there's a lot for us to say about what's happening in July. Okay, so as I was listening today to the speeches from the beginning of to even from the first ones that we've done to even the ones that we've just heard, the themes, there were some distance learning themes that just surfaced to the top, and I think these themes in one way or another were woven through everybody's presentations throughout the whole day. And it also happens to be the themes that we at Edulastic are working on also. So the first one that we talked about was building connections and communities and how important that is to bring the home environment to an online classroom. The second one many people talked about was giving students a positive experience with distance learning, removing the frustration, removing the disorganization, and keeping it as simple, as organized, so that they're ready to learn. They're coming to class with the right mindset. The third area that rose to the top was having to have flexibility so you can engage in asynchronous learning. And so the non-traditional hours, real-time feedback, all of that kind of flexibility really has been important to us as well. And finally, sharing student voices and experiences and bringing those in during this time that's been so hectic and crazy for all of us. So I was thinking about those themes as people were talking about them. And then I also want to talk to you a little bit about some of the features that map and roll into those themes. So at Edulastic, we're rolling out one of the biggest changes I think we've had since I've been with this group. And if you are a longtime user and you started using Edulastic 2, 3, even a year ago, what you're going to see in July is just it's evolved so much. It's almost like a new product. And I say that with a little bit of reservation because you won't have to relearn a whole bunch of new things. All the same features and functionality that you've loved will be there still. So you'll just see it in a different way and with some really much more powerful features. So again, as we're building these features, we are thinking about distance learning because the country has had to, but we also, some of these features were ready to be rolled out anyways, and we're just now able to say, okay, this is how it works for distance learning. So some of those, I'm gonna go through the top level list, and then I'll take you into the app and show you a little bit of it. But given the amount of time that we have and the number of features that we really have, there's just, I could do a whole 5-hour workshop on this alone. So I will just kind of give you the highlights, and then I'll leave it with, these things are being built and added to our website on a daily basis. So we don't even have articles yet to show you how to use these. So I would normally like to have all of these with hyperlinks to articles and more detailed information, but that'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. So so what I'd like you to do is just get an overview of what I'm showing you today, and then take away the fact that all of these will be documented for you. They'll be part of trainings, they'll be part of articles, on our website. They'll be, we'll have plenty of seminars like this where you can, revisit these in more detail. So some of the new features that we have coming are, we've got an even stronger Google Classroom integration. And I've broken these out actually by the different sections that you may be familiar with on Edulastic. So in the class rosters or the class management section, we have an easier, more robust, more streamlined Google Classroom integration. We've made it available for teachers to add co-teachers. And also you can, in the new version, you can add student groups. So you can have your list of classes, and then you can make subgroups within those classes to support differentiated learning, to support smaller groups for distance learning. There's a lot of creativity and flexibility you can use with that. Those are just a couple of the highlights from the managed class section. When it comes to building assessments, we've got the assessment library, and daily I'm seeing that there are more distance learning lessons that are already pre-built and they're already in there. And they're perfect examples from the previous presenters that we've seen. You could look on any one of their names and search as an author in the assessment library, and some of these will be popping up. So I do see them coming on all the time, and we're building them like that for you as well. We're introducing a new feature called playlists, and it's a way of organizing a series of assessments up front. And so you can have a whole list of assignments by unit. You can have unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, and within there could be smaller assignments. So this playlist is very much like a music playlist that we're familiar with, where it just goes in order. And it helps with the organization for your students. So when it comes to distance learning, you can set it all up front, and it would be, it would make life much easier, I think, in some cases when it comes to the organization. We also have the ability to print, and you can send home assessments like paper packets, like a lot of our speakers have talked about. But we're also making it so that teachers can print essay responses or the constructed responses for any subject, rather than having to grade them on the screen. You can print them out for the whole class or print them out for one. Teachers can mark up their comments and hand a paper version back to the students too. So there's some nice changes that are happening with the print. We've also, you've always been able to upload and embed video, but we've expanded that a little bit and made the audio part easier. We've made it now so that students can upload and teachers can upload. So if you're building an assessment, you can upload images, you can upload your videos of yourself, or videos that you want them to watch first. Then the students can respond by uploading their own. as part of their answer. Grading and feedback, we've talked a lot about redirect or reassigning, and now we're rolling out with this auto redirect. So you can give a reassign or like a redo, and the teacher can set the number of times that happens. And so if, for example, you're giving your students 3 chances at a redo or a redirect, then the student, when the student finishes, hit submit, gets their response, they could hit redirect again on their own. So if you can imagine how when you're working from home now, or students are working off campus, how that could be really useful if they're in a groove and they've got their own time frame. Rather than have to wait for the teacher to respond, they can just automatically redirect it themselves. Similarly, students can check their own answers now before they move on. So if the teacher enables that, the students can check the answer, and they can have a multiple attempts. The teacher can set the number of attempts that they would, that the students would be able to check their answers. So it gives, for lower stakes assignments, it gives a lot more immediate feedback. It allows the students to be more in control of their assignments and their timing, and learn as they go. The fix and regrade, we've had that for a while. It's improved a little bit more, so that's a little bit easier. And so if a teacher were to find a mistake on an assessment that they've created, it can be corrected and then redistributed to all of the students and rescored for those that have already turned it in. We also have and we always have had this one, but the private question level comments. So as one of the other speakers has mentioned earlier, you can give students direct personal feedback at a question level or at an assessment level. So that's another way of staying in connection with the students. And then instant data, we've got the present mode, which is something we've always had, where you can anonymize the features, you can anonymize the scores and go over it with your students. That, in combination with something like Google Meet, makes it a really interactive session. If you're doing a session online, like a Zoom session or a Google Meet session, where you want to go over go over the scores right away. We've got some other insights and instant results. So we've improved some of the reporting. Students can get immediate feedback. Teachers can give immediate feedback. And so all of this is part of our instant data section. We've also improved the accessibility features. So you'll be seeing when the fall comes around, speech, text-to-speech, which we've always had, but you can also, students can modify the display a little bit for font and color and some of the other issues that are needed for special needs. We're introducing a parent portal where a teacher can invite parents, and so this is an easier way for parents to access their students' scores, and teachers can set that up. And then last is, as somebody's mentioned, we have mobile access. So we have that the last month or so. It's going to be great for next year, especially when more districts are having sort of a combination of on-campus classes and off-site classes. So of these themes that we talked about, I grouped and lumped. I tried to say those 2 words at the same time. I lumped together the new features that fit under these certain themes that make distance learning actually make distance learning work. So we've got like the Google Classroom integration. We've got a new thing called student groups, and all of that falls under building connections. You can help create the sense of classroom off campus, basically. Let's jump over here, the flexibility. We've got a lot of these features that make student hours very flexible, students being able to access when they need it and how they need it. The positive learning, the Google Classroom integration, all of that makes it a lot simpler, a lot more straightforward for the students to just jump into the distance learning. And we've got the pre-built assessments for teachers to make it simpler for teachers. And then finally, there's the sharing of the student voices and bringing in the student experience. All of that can be accomplished by adding video, adding multimedia, by using our easy integration with Google Meet. And then we've got different types of questions that support differentiated learning. So earlier this morning, we were talking a lot about choice boards and giving students some flexibility on what their assignments were and how they can bring in their real experience to these assignments. And so the choice boards and the item types, we can support that. So let me jump into, I need to get off of my screen here, and I want to jump in to show you what V2 looks like. And I won't take too much time, but I will give you
time. So
what's that?
We are a little bit past the end of our time, but
okay,
that's
good.
Okay.
So let me do this, and let me say I'd like everybody just to get a quick view of it, so it's not so shocking when they jump in over the summer. But if you go to our website, edulastic.com, go to the resources and find the links to the on-demand training. When you're in our on-demand training, there is a sneak preview of V2, and you can actually request a demo account, and then you can play around with this yourself and kind of get a feel for it. But this is what it looks like. It's very exciting, and we will be sending out on our website, in emails, and all of the training messages that we send out. We'll be going through these in detail. So I'll leave it at that then.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jenny. That was great to get that sneak preview out. I know that there are some nice comments in the chat on that. All right, so it's been quite an incredible day, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We've come to the end of a 5-hour marathon of presentations highlighting innovative ideas, tools, and some interesting themes have come up, as Jenny pointed out: building connections in communities, making distance learning a simple, positive, and organized experience, offering asynchronous learning as well as synchronous learning, and finding simple ways to check in. As Karen Hernandez said a little while ago, it's a learning and adjustment process for all of us. By coming together to learn and share, we are taking a huge step in saying that we are looking to improve teaching practice and our connections so we can serve students, the education community, and the broader community in a wonderful and more impactful way. So thank you for being here. And as Barbara mentioned throughout the sentiment in her presentation, it's about being there for the kids and making this as good of an experience as possible, making it personal too when possible, and of course, taking care of yourself during these times as well. So here's what's next. As soon as possible, we will upload the session videos for our YouTube page, and we'll send you an email to those sessions. We'll also send you a PD certificate of participation, a follow-up survey, because your feedback is valuable. And also in that feedback, we want to just know that we want to continue to provide valuable resources to teachers, and it's your input that helps. So thank you, everyone, participants. It's your questions, feedback, and active participation that make these online events so fun. And thank you to the presenters. You stepped up and pulled together some really inspiring and informative presentations. And then thank you to the team here at Edulastic. This event was a mere idea 2 Thursdays ago, which is pretty crazy to remember and think about. But it turned into this epic professional development event today, this 5-hour packed full online conference, essentially. And it wouldn't have been possible without a strong group effort from everyone involved. So thank you so much. If anyone has follow-up questions, you can post them to us via email or follow up to our follow-up email. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a really wonderful and fun, exciting day. Put up your feet, relax, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. Thank you.